Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I am so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 122nd episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. And if you tuned in last week, you already know what we're going to talk about this week. And that is where Logan and I decided to go for our one-night getaway, a romantic, last-minute trip to the White Squirrel Winery located in Kenton, Tennessee. So I found this place by searching Superhost on Airbnb. And I, as a travel advisor, personally do not book Airbnb for my guests, but I like to find really cool ones. That's a side hobby of mine, to find really interesting ones because I love small businesses and I like to find unique places to stay. And one of my fun things I do on the side is to find where can you go in a weekend, because I realize even though most of my clients that I book are going to the Caribbean or a family trip to Disney and Universal, or maybe they're going overseas to Europe. We can't always do that for every trip. And sometimes you just need a weekend getaway, or in this case, a one-night getaway. And so last week, I featured a lot of our favorite one-night places that we can go that are easy to get to from Northeast Mississippi. But I'm always looking for a new one. And sometimes it feels like I've been everywhere I possibly can go in a 4-hour radius. And so I love it when I find somewhere I've never been. So here's how I first found out about White Squirrel Winery. This summer, I took the boys on a day trip and we went to Union City, to the Discovery Center of America, which was an amazing experience. Think of it as like a science museum meets a children's museum. Just like there's so many different things here. Like there's a huge outdoor part, it's indoor. It's really for all ages. It truly is a discovery center. You've got dinosaur bones and you have a replica of the Liberty Bell. You have mazes. You have a koi pond. You have a frontier-style village where you can go into the cabins. And there's just so much to see. There's a train set. And when I say a train set, I mean a real train set, working engines that you can explore that are from Switzerland. And just absolutely amazing to get to tour those, counting all the activities on the inside. Like you can spend more than a day here. And so on our way on this day trip to Union City, we passed through on Highway 45, going just north up the road, through Corinth, through Jackson, Tennessee. We arrived in Kenton, Tennessee, which is home to the largest population of the white albino squirrels. So I had not ever heard of a white albino squirrel, or even really Kenton, Tennessee. But as we're passing through, on the left, we saw this winery, and it jumped out at me because I'm riding in a vehicle with 5 kids, ages 13 and under, so the winery popped out. But it was called White Squirrel Winery, and it was very picturesque. Right off the road, rows and rows of grapes, and I thought, that's a place I would like to stop and check out. So when I was doing my search for a really unique place within a 4-hour radius, and this is under 3 hours from Guntown, when I was looking for a place, I saw something jump out at me from Kenton, Tennessee. And it was this winery, and you could stay in a wine loft. You're the only 2 people there. There is a wine loft that's over the winery, and they have big customized windows opening out into the winery floor where they do the tastings. They have different events. On the other side, there were windows that opened out onto the vineyards. So it looked like something out of Italy. just placed right into northwestern Tennessee. And I thought, okay, it has amazing reviews. It's a Superhost, includes breakfast. I always recommend reading the reviews, the most recent reviews. What are people saying? Is the host responsive? And in this case, we not only got to meet the host, who was Bill Sanderson. It is his family farm where he grows 20 acres of grapes and other fruits, including the blueberries that were used in our homemade pancakes, our blueberry pancakes that he made us the next morning. So this just isn't an Airbnb. This is an entire experience where breakfast is included. So you can book it on Airbnb, but it is so much more. You're not just getting a room. But what really caught my eye was the bathroom, because it was beautifully outfitted with a big soaking tub with windows, again, overlooking the sunset in the vineyard. So I was like, I'm sold. Great reviews. We're going to go check it out. And everyone said that they just loved the owner, that he was very personable. And I thought, this is going to be fun. We're going to go. So we were able to book it for one night. We get there just as the sun is beginning to set. So we take some pictures. And so if you haven't seen these on my Facebook group, Heather and Logan Tate Whimsical Destinations, I recommend you go check it out, because I've done some videos and some pictures about it. But Bill was there to greet us, and he's like, you're my guest. He's like, come, I'm going to give you a little tour. We did a wine tasting. He asked what types of wines that we like. My husband likes dry. I like sweet. So he customized our wine tasting to what we particularly like. So Logan only tried the dry. I only tried the sweet. And we ended up buying several bottles because we liked all the ones that we tried. And while we were shopping, he gave us a glass of wine to walk around and look. And his wife, Marjorie, has some homemade soaps and candles through Tennessee Candle Company that we got to check out. And we also have some homemade soaps and candles in addition to our wine. So already off to a great start. This building, which is a custom-made tasting room, opened in 2014. So it's been there for 10 years. And it looks like a big barn, beautiful. You can tell that the big doors, everything is customized. And Bill and a friend actually helped build everything here for the tasting room. And it's right on their family farm. And this started out as a hobby. He was given a wine kit for a present, and so he started off making wine in his kitchen in the 1990s, and that grew and grew to where now he is one of the top grape producers in the state of Tennessee. He took a birthday trip to Napa Valley in California, and he was so inspired by the family-owned operations there that he thought, okay, I'm going to go from making wine just for friends and family to then he moved out to another building on their land. He enjoys the making, not the making of the wine as much, but the growing of the grapes. He loves being in the vineyard, pruning his grapes, trying different varieties, seeing what works in Tennessee and what's going to, prosper there. And he's gone so far as to help change some of the laws in Tennessee to make it easier for vineyards to open up and to grow and wineries to expand. And he's even going to be part of the soon-to-come North Fork Wine Trail. So it's not just about his family business, his vineyards and family farm. He is helping other nearby vineyards get their start. So it becomes a whole destination then. There's a lot of wine destinations and wine trails throughout the country, but there's not a really big one in Tennessee yet. There is a Tennessee wine trail, but this is going to be the first ever North Fork Wine Trail that's going to be in the northwest part of the state. So California and Virginia, Finger Lakes, New York, these are all known for being wine destinations. And so now he is helping to put Tennessee on the map. So we had an amazing first impression. Bill gave us a recommendation. He's like, you need to go to this little restaurant if you're looking for a place to eat. And so we drove to a nearby town in Obion County, which was actually the town of Obion. I think it's a population of 1,200 people. And we went to this house called the Willow Tree, and it was an amazing experience. I eat a lot of pasta. I love Italy. I love Italian food. And it is one of the best Alfredos I have had outside of Europe. And they customized mine to be vegetarian friendly. So they made mine with portobello mushrooms instead of chicken. But my husband had a chicken dish, and he said it was equally great. They had homemade cakes, homemade appetizers, which is an amazing experience. And this beautiful house is over 100 years old where the restaurant, it's a 2-story house that they've converted into a restaurant. And so when you go to these places, and so like we went to, this little Airbnb on the vineyard, you want to get recommendations from the host of where they would recommend, because I never would have known to look in this place. I would have gone somewhere that I just quickly, Googled as a top restaurant in the area, and I might have missed this because it was a town over. The drive itself there was about 15 minutes, but it was through the countryside. We actually went through a marsh area and the countryside at sunset. That in and of itself was an amazing experience. It felt like something out of a Nicholas Sparks book when we pulled up. The next morning, after we opened the windows where the sun was coming up over the vineyard, and the next morning about 8:30, Bill was there with our homemade breakfast, and I asked him if he would, sit and join us and share his story because I wanted to share it on the podcast. And he was so happy to talk about how he took a hobby and turned it into this thriving business. He wanted to know what he wanted to do next in his life. Bill is 65, and you would not know it because his youthful spirit makes him seem more like he is decades younger. That's because he has found something that he is passionate about and that he loves, and he's sharing it with not only his family, who are all involved. His son takes a huge part in the winemaking part of their business and has been all over the world learning things and bringing that back home to Tennessee to make their family business stronger. But he wants to share it with the community as well, and you could tell that he's very helpful and very passionate in his community and wanting to bring visitors there. So I encourage any of you who are like, I want to have this vineyard experience that feels like you're in Italy or feels like you're in Napa Valley, but only 3 hours or less from home in Northeast Mississippi, to look up the White Squirrel Winery. You will not be disappointed. I cannot wait to go back for another event there because they host weddings, birthdays, other events, Valentine's. They do a special dinner, and Bill makes a lot of these customized catered meals himself in the kitchen there on the winery. So this is a true experience where you can experience vineyard to bottle all in one spot. That's all the time we have for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. Wherever your adventurous spirit leads you this week, I hope you have an amazing time. Remember, life is short. Make those memories. Take the trip. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.